Hey everybody, this is Mark Ciszewski at Revizto, and we're excited for you guys to join us for our first Australian webinar on 4.8. So today we are going to have myself, Mark Ciszewski, the Director of Sales for the Western region, as well as Vlad, who is located in Melbourne, Australia, who is our Territory Manager for all of Australia and New Zealand. So as you guys can see, we got a couple of photos on here for the sake of our viewers. We kept the pixels very low on here, so we didn't scare anybody. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Vlad to kick off our webinar. Vlad, take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone, and welcome. As you could see from the invitation, there's a few things we're going to go through today. Our main thing is going to be going through our stamps feature that we introduced with Revista 4.8 a few weeks ago. We'll talk about reporting and how stamps can help with reporting. And in the end, we'll leave another 10 minutes or a bit more for Q&A. So you guys should be able to see through your Zoom application the Q&A button so that you can just get in and type in any questions, and we'll try to address as many as we can at the end of the session. But before we get into the stamps and reporting, I just wanted to go through how Revista fits in the BIM workflows. Just take a minute for that. I understand quite a few of you guys online will have used Revista for quite a bit, but I also understand that there'll be some that are looking into starting to use Revista and some that might have never tried it or used it. So just to kind of fit in Revista in your traditional coordination BIM cycle. If you look at the traditional one, now obviously there's going to be some changes depending on the project and the users and so on and so forth. This is kind of a common traditional one that more or less goes on any given BIM project, which is where you've got your team of architects, MEP, structural consultants, and so on, and they all do their own modeling in their native softwares, some of which examples have here, and then after that they get uploaded into an FTP site, or in Australia and New Zealand region there'll be possibly an Aconex or a Dropbox box services like that, and then the BIM manager takes down NWCs from that box or Aconex, runs it in, say, for this example, say Navisworks, for example, runs clashes and then needs to communicate those clashes back to the authoring team. And there's a few different ways to do it. So by recording viewpoints, then trying to email people with those screenshots of those viewpoints, and then trying to manage reports and who's supposed to do what and who's done what and when, and so on and so forth, back to the team. Now, if you look at the Revista workflow, basically there's a few steps to get eliminated there once you've used Revista, and with Revista you get one source of truth where the BIM manager, and just an additional explanation, I put here a general BIM manager. Depending on the region, BIM manager can be different players in the project. So we know that in North America, for example, it's very, very commonly managing contractor in construction stage. Here in Australia, for example, we still see a lot of big engineering firms or MEP subcontractors once construction starts performing kind of the coordination BIM manager role as well. So I've just kind of put that common BIM manager cycle, but that can be pretty much anyone who performs coordination on the project. And then you'll still use a analytics tool like Navisworks to run clashes, but then through our Revista, sorry about that. Through our Revista plugins and add-ins, you can sync your clashes directly into Revista and pretty much make Revista your source of truth for all the federated models and all the issues and clashes that go on. Revista provides you with the ability to record new issues directly in it, syncs seamlessly back to the clash tool of choice as well, and also tackles everything when it comes to reporting and notifications. So if you remember the previous slide that I showed you, that where you gotta record your own viewpoints and then distribute screenshots and try to kind of manage reporting, all of that is pretty much covered in Revizto, together with the issue tracker that's available in authoring tools like Revizto Archicad, for example, where you can actually create issues directly in those tools and have them synced directly into Revizto, and have a switchback option where any issue that's assigned to you, you can double click on and see it directly with the sectioning and the viewpoints as assigned within Clash Detection and Navisworks, if that makes sense. So that's kind of a very quick overview of where Revizto fits. I know that quite a few of you guys would have known about it already, but I just thought it's worthwhile mentioning it here as well before jumping into Revizto. Now, sorry about that. To start talking about stamps, we've introduced this new option. There was quite a big demand with our current clients to have an option like that. Stamp is basically a feature brought in that allows you to very easily assign issues that are more or less repetitive tasks, and eliminate pretty much any time waste on having to do all kinds of different parameters that traditionally have to do with an issue. So having said all of that, when I click on my issues here, you can see I've got already some stamps created. Now, basically what you can do with a stamp is create a stamp category, clicking on this button, and then easily create any number of stamps within that category. Now, specifically for our Australian and New Zealand audience, when we say stamp, we basically mean, in this context, an issue template. You see why we call it stamp, because you can actually just go and stamp it and repetitively stamp it within a 2D or 3D environment. But ultimately, it's pretty much bringing in an issue template that you can design and then allow people either sitting at their laptops or being on site to use. And again, eliminate the time waste on them having to set up all the parameters within an issue. So for our example's sake, say I'll create a stamp category called defects here. So obviously it's going to be mainly for the guys that are on site, but we'll talk about later on about stamps used for design and coordination issues and so on and so forth. And once I've created that, I can choose the parameters that I want this group to have. So I can say, for example, I want defects to be of the red color, and I'll give them a default priority that can later be changed. Let's say they're all major. I'll have an assignee here. So I'll put markers in assignee. Get a couple of watches. So all your common parameters you have to set up with each and every issue, I'll just put in here and say, I can get tags there as well. So once I've created that, I can get down to start creating issues that will fall down, or stamps that will fall down into this category. So for example, I'll just do a couple here for the time's sake. For example, I'll do a correct tile issue, and you see here it will go on the defects category. And then I'll do a cracked lights, and just one more, and then we can proceed. For example, replace outlet. Now,
and I think it's important to note that as you guys can see, every time he's adding one of these, it's by default taking all of the parameters. You can see by default that category is colored red. So if he wants to change one of those, all defects now are in red. But obviously from an individual stamp level, he can go in and change those as he sees fit.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Absolutely. So if you see here on the right, as Mark was saying, in replace outlet, it just copied across all the parameters I got from the defects. But I can say, well, when the replace outlet defect's on, I can change the assignee to Dave Murray because he's my electrical guy, for example, if that makes sense. So now that I've got these created, I can go in and do some stamping within either 2D or 3D environments. So if we have an example of our guys being on site and walking around and actually performing an inspection on what's already been built and installed, and say they're right now on the ground floor, I've just brought up my ground floor plan, so lighting layout plan, as you can see. Now, before I do the stamp, I just want to quickly record an issue just the way that you record it without any stamping. So if it's an ad hoc issue, as most of you guys will know, you just click on an issue, you put it here, wherever the issue is, then you do your quick markup. Click on done, and once you've clicked on done, you need to come here and actually set up the rest of the parameters. So I'll go into deadline, choose the assignee, put in any tags I want, for example, CDA design in this case, and I've created one issue. Now this issue will have been assigned. Let me just reassign it to Mark just for the sake of both of us being in this session together. And there's my issue. Now, that's obviously still easy enough, and I suppose you guys will still be using this ad hoc option when needed, but without issue template / stamp option, what we've kind of brought to the table now is, if you're walking around and you need to record a few of them, or quite a few, you don't have to waste any time of these parameters here. So basically, if I show you the same workflow, but I use the stamp instead of an issue. So let's use the stamp that I've just created here from the defects, and say I've seen a few cracked lights there. Apart from just being able to click on cracked lights and stamp it, I can actually hold control on my keyboard and multiple stamp. So as you can see, I've just done 4, and they're all, when I click on each one of them, they're pretty much all transferring all the parameters that I've assigned to them as a template, if that makes sense. So then, if I continue walking and find some other options, so I've got some electrical defects there, I can say, oh, there's only damage there, and you can see there's a different color. I can just stamp them there as well. And again, I can still change something if, for example, this kind of damage is actually not critical really, but major. I can change that from the template. But again, if everything is there the way it's set up and I don't need any change, it's as simple as clicking, stamping, and I can move on. Now, that's pretty much how you do that in the 2D mode, and an additional value is that I'll just click on those now. I've got back into my 3D mode, and anything that's just stamped in 2D will be transferred to the 3D mode as well, but you can also do direct stamping from 3D, and that's especially useful if you're doing design coordination, for example, and you want to walk around and stamp something, especially something that's possibly repetitive. So let me just get to my back to my ground floor, and right here, for example, here I've located a few design issues. There's all these floating PowerPoints going on in here, where they're not really anywhere, just up there in midair. So what I can do is just come here and say, I've got a modeling issue, object not attached to anything, for example, and click on it and just say this one and this one and this one, and they get assigned, obviously, to, in this case, Mark, with the text CDA design, because it's their issue and so on and so forth. And again, if you're on site and want to take photos, obviously you can just click here on the camera and take photos, just what you can do with your normal issues. That makes sense. And now another aspect of stamps is that each stamp will be colored the way that the color you've chosen, and also it will show you the status. So you can see that this one is green and red, meaning that it's still open, but if someone picks it up and said this is now in progress, then that stamp will now change to yellow, and if someone solves this one, then it will change to green, and so on and so forth. So yet another kind of color-coded way for the people that are using Revizto models and Revizto 2D information to understand very quickly on what a particular issue slash stamp is about and which stage or status it's in, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much a quick overview of how stamps are grouped, created, and how you can use them on 2D plans or within the 3D environments. Having said all that, I'm going to transfer the mic now to Mark to fill out anything I might have missed, and also to go through the reporting benefits you can get out of stamps. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Vlad. Let me share my screen, and hopefully you guys can all see that. Just a couple quick notes from the beginning I wanted to mention for everybody who's kind of joined us late. If you guys are having any audio issues, certainly try to join by phone, as well as if you have questions, feel free. On the bottom, you should see a question aspect. We're going to address every question if we have time on the bottom live here. So again, if you guys think of anything or there's any questions or comments, feel free to add that into the chat, and Vlad and I will do our best to address all those questions at the end. So I see we have a couple of them already in there. We'll make sure that we take a few minutes at the end to address those. And then the last thing, this is recorded, so this can be sent out, or you guys can access this on our website as well if there's anybody else you'd like to share this with. So again, if you have any questions that come up after this meeting, feel free to reach out directly to Vlad, or Luke Johnson as well, are going to be your local contacts in Australia. So jumping back into a couple of the points Vlad made, I think it's critical to note that, again, standard defects have been done on a 2D environment, and usually it's for while we're on site, we're on an iPad, and we're discovering issues that we want to make note of. I think it's really important to kind of emphasize the versatility of these stamps and what they have a capability of doing. So even in coordination is a huge portion of that. So as Vlad already noted, if we're identifying these issues, stamps will pretty much take place of all issues in the future, in my opinion. So again, if we were up in this ceiling level, and let's just say we saw, again, something that had to be addressed back in Revit, being able to come in here and quickly identify and have a list of all of our stamps and just be able to address where that area is gives us, so much more speed and versatility to being able to identify issues. Okay, we jotted down this, let's make a quick note. type in some notes, and now we can continue to navigate on. So it makes it really, really simple without having to manually fill out a lot of that information that you've seen, Vlad do in our original issue. Yet still customizable to be able to edit and address the functionality, such as moving a status of an issue to major, as Vlad showed you earlier. So so far, this has been live for I think about three weeks now, and we've seen customers utilizing this for design review. We've seen them using it for CA. We've seen them utilizing it for coordination, and basically eliminating some of their coordination meetings just because of this aspect of being able to communicate. So again, if we jump back to the 2D plan, whatever we have filtered in this issue tracker, whether it was in 3D or whether it was in 2D, is going to show up on those specific plans. So again, this is what we are used to seeing, is this little cube here knowing is a 3D issue, or the plane showing this was a open issue that was created in a 2D environment. So I think that stamps is really going to take over all of that. It just gives you so much more from a visual perspective, just to be able to identify, okay, it's in open status and it's under this category. It was created in this specific phase. So one other thing I will note in regards to stamps is from the category level, this is another place we've seen people be extremely creative. So when we're setting up categories, we've seen people create different phases as specific colors. We've seen them create different companies as different colors. So these don't necessarily have to be design issue category or electrical defect category. We've seen people be very very creative when coming to, maybe it's a specific level, maybe it's a specific phase, maybe it's a specific company name, just to allow them to get the most out of utilizing this platform and visually see, knowing that maybe all red issues are, the architect, or all blue issues are the contractor. So a lot of different versatility for this. And I think as you guys get in there, you'll probably find ways that we've never even thought about utilizing it. So kind of moving on to the reporting functionality of Revizto, I think there's a couple important aspects of this. Before we get into the reporting aspect, I want to touch on filters. So the cool thing about all these objects, you can see I got currently 6 issues, and these are the ones you've seen Vlad assigned to me today, and I obviously can communicate back and forth with Vlad on this. And I'm going to just close out or open a couple of these issues so I don't have that notification. And then I'm going to go into my filter button, and we are going to touch on stamp category. So by doing this, we can jump into that specific stamp category that Vlad created, or we can go to his modeling issues, and we can see any modeling issue by category, or maybe we want to see any modeling issue or design issue. So we got 27 total issues, and then we can come up here and we can save this as a new preset if this is something you're going to want to be seeing over the next couple of weeks. Additionally here, again, going back to the category level, depending on what's in your BIM execution plan, we may have company names here, and then obviously adding specific stamps relevant to each company and being able to just check out our MEP team as well as the architect to see all the issues that are pertaining between those two disciplines. So the last thing I wanted to point out while we're still in the Revizto platform is when leveraging this, this filter button, it also plays into VR extremely well. So I'm just going to filter by a stamp color. So maybe we know that all of our red issues are defects, and we want to walk through those specific issues. So now when I come back to our 3D, we're only going to be able to see those red issues. And if I press M on my keyboard, depending on what the level is, we're going to just see where those specific issues are. The reason I'm showing you this is I think it ties in very well to VR. And for VR purposes, I'm going to actually go back and just reset this so we have a lot of those issues, and we're going to start to navigate around. So if we're taking somebody in here and we're walking through in a virtual environment, to be able to understand what this specific issue was, there's no data visually, besides we know this is ready to be signed off on. So I'm going to select the green button, And I would have to go in here and see the specific, okay, this is an HVAC issue and here's the communication. Now with stamps, we can visually just look at that specific issue and tell, okay, we know that, DR is a defect and it's specifically around our door repair here. So again, I clicked on it there, but it doesn't make it a requirement to be able to click on it, just knowing that we can fly through that model and just get a visual representation of what's going on. So the last part of here before we open it up for questions is going to be around the reporting and dashboard functionality of stamps and how that really ties into there. So we're going to use some of our live examples from today. So I'm just going to go back to Issue Tracker. You can log into Revizto and access this through the web browser, or a simple hotkey or a quick link to that is just selecting this button right here on the top of your screen. And I'm going to open this up. Because I am logged into Vlad's project here, it's already going to show me all of our current dashboards. So we can jump into here and actually we can see that here's all the open, closed, and in progress issues. We've been doing a pretty good job closing out a lot of these issues, but by just hovering over, we can see Luke Johnson currently contains 2.6% of our total issues, and 44 of those issues are open, 6 in progress, 1 closed. So this is going to be a live, up-to-date dashboard of what's going on in real time. So if Vlad comes in here, and Vlad, maybe if you want to address, move a couple of your issues from open to in progress, or to solved, or to closed. And what we'll notice is in real time, this is going to change. And the reason this is unique is we always know in coordination meetings, or just meetings in general, if people are given a deadline, we always like to procrastinate. The beauty of this is as we are working within this platform, well, we don't have to send out a report that's stagnant. The whole idea around building information modeling is communication, keeping that data live, and being able to accelerate the building lifecycle. So what we want to do here is if I just click refresh, I think Vlad had 33 issues, if I recall, and you can go down here and see that automatically it's been updated to 27. So Vlad now has 27 issues. So at any point in time, we don't have to rely on an Excel or PDF report or an email basically, stating how many clashes are open, or how many coordination issues still need to be addressed, or how many defects are still yet to be solved, because this is all happening in real time. So we're going to walk quickly through how to do one of these and leveraging some of the stamps we created already. So underneath this project, we can do a couple things. We can create a new dashboard. So maybe I want to have a dashboard based on, we'll do field issues. So this is a dashboard that's created that's only custom, or only charts that will be in here are going to be field issues. We've seen a lot of companies do this by company name. So we'll put the architect's name in there, because these are going to be reports that are relevant to the architect or the design team. Obviously, this is, issues around the concrete aren't going to be relevant, or just make this dashboard a little bit busy for people joining in here that don't need to see those specific issues. So I'm going to add field issues, select team members, and I can decide if I want to share this with everybody, or if it's just a specific individual. So instead of doing it by invitation, I'm just going to do it to all team members. In reality, if I was doing a design one, I'd probably just invite the design team to that. So we're going to select OK. And as you can see, my dashboard here is completely blank. And that's because I haven't added any charts in there. So I'm just going to add a couple quick charts. I'm going to name this defects. And I'm going to do it by assignee. And then I'm going to come in here and it says filter issues meets all the following conditions. So now, because we've added some tags into some of those stamp categories, we can be very granular with this and pick only the specific things we're looking to see. So I might come in here and say, you know what, I want to see it by a tag. And I just want those tags to be, actually, you know what, I want to disclude Smith's Concrete. And we're going to do not include. And here we got a quick chart. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to create a couple other quick ones here. So we're going to add another one in, and we'll just call this things that are things that are ugly is going to be our other stamp category. So I'm going to add in here, and you know, at this time we're going to go by type of issue, and then we're going to come into here and we're going to actually go by stamp category. You know what? I don't like type. We're going to go by, we'll go by the reporter, or let's do assignee. So we're going to do is, and then we're going to just include some of these categories. So modeling issues we want to see here, and then we also want to see maybe a couple other ones such as design issues and electrical defects, as well as no category. So you can see that Luke Johnson and I have been getting hammered here, and the rest of our team really needs to pick up the slack, but it looks like they're split up pretty equal here at 50-50. But it's just a really good way to be able to continue to add in conditions. So when your project ends up having 3,000 to 4,000 issues, you can nail down and see exactly the style of issue, the type of issue, the phase that that issue was created in, the level that it was created on, the stamp that was used to create it. And you have these custom dashboards that allow you just to log in and get a quick snapshot of time of where you kind of lie for that, you know, specific problem area. And as this project gets updated, this graph is going to fundamentally change without having to keep an Excel or Word document or PDF updated. The next thing that you'll note on this stamp or on the dashboard aspect is if you go to send now, we can choose to send this out to our specific team members in a PDF or PDF with issue, include our photos, add in those specific people and send that out, or we can set this up on a delivery schedule. So maybe this report needs to be sent out each week or every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever that may be. And then we can obviously include the specific individuals that need to be on there. So the last aspect that we'll kind of discuss today before we open it up for questions is going to be the reporting. So the report, we only have one report in here currently, but I'm going to add in another one. You can see this one is Vlad. It's sent out Monday through Friday. And it's also in PDF. So we're going to jump in here, title this A&Z webinar, and visual to all attendees, that's fine, PDF, or we can do Excel. Let's include our company logo, updates, bigger images. This is going to make this, if you're looking to print this and you want images that are large, that's going to make it really basically almost an issue a page. So that makes it easy for people that may be a little bit less sophisticated when it comes to technology to just print this out and be able to mark that up in the field. And then the filter issues, we can do the conditions just like we discussed inside the dashboard. And then scheduling. So I can specifically include or exclude specific dates. And you know what, we'll just add in a couple here, select the time frame, and I'll add Vlad to this report as well as Luke Johnson. So now when I select OK, we're going to see this report's going to go out. It includes these 3 individuals, and it's going out Wednesday and Saturday. So that is kind of how we can automate and update these reports. The other important thing to note with this is when it gets sent out on Saturday, similar to dashboards, it's giving you a snapshot of time, as you probably can imagine, from Saturday. So if somebody on Friday night at 11:50, before they went to bed, addressed 3 of their issues, that report that goes out in our example at 2 a.m. on Saturday is going to contain the latest information. So again, it's a way to keep those reports and give you a snapshot in time and have that delivered into your inbox in the morning, and know that you have the latest up to date, and know that, you know, that report is only relevant until you get the one, obviously in this case on Wednesday. So without diving in too deep on some of this, let's jump into some questions, Vlad, if we have some on here. I saw at least one to begin with earlier.
Yeah.
Haven't jumped
we
back.
have
so do you...
four questions so far. So we can just go through all of them because there's not many. Guys, feel free to ask more questions while we're still online. If not, feel free to email questions to our generic email address later on. But Nikki Taylor is asking a couple of questions. First one is, can you create an existing list of stamps and reuse for other projects. I believe that comes into the category of, or we'll build that in the future, right, Mark?
No, actually, that's already in there. So by default, by default, the stamp's already in your project. So obviously, you can eliminate them. But if you create a standard, like a standard stamp template, that will be added into all of the same projects with that same project owner. So very easy to create stamps, as you saw, but we can, take that custom, we can customize those further, as we know each project's a little bit different. The BIM execution plan might be a little bit different, but just allows you to have that ability to do either or. Looks like there's another question around, can you get a report of the stamps and their current issues? I think we addressed that under the reporting portion. So if that wasn't clear, feel free to maybe clarify that question a little bit further, but absolutely. We can report all the way down to the specific tag. So maybe you want to see only design stamps that are tagged DD and assigned to Vlad. You can be that granular with your reporting. So again, any kind of stamp category, color, level, specific person you went to, or tag, you can combine and stack some of those tags together in parameters to make sure that you're pulling the exact report you're looking for. What native file formats is read by Revizto? Michael Cook asked that. So we have IFC, OBJ comes in natively with Revizto. BCF is also a native format. And then we'll also be supporting, around the end of the year, we'll be supporting all scanning formats. Actually, I'm going to take that back. We're going to be supporting almost all scanning formats. I'm sure there's some out there that we may not support, but there's going to be a big chunk of scanning formats that we'll support for point clouds that are coming in addition to the OBJ mesh that folks are already utilizing for hypermodeling. Another question was, once the model is uploaded to Revizto, is it able to be like Navisworks,
interrogated
element categories and properties? That's a great question. So if I jump back to Revizto real quick for everybody. So the short answer is, at the end you said like Navisworks. The answer is no. You cannot do it like Navisworks. But the capabilities are being enhanced, and I think we could say yes to that question, hopefully in the next probably 4 to 5 months. So in regards to like search sets or the granularity of being able to isolate things, you do not have the same ability. However, you do have the ability to come into this little button here, our little filter button, and we can come in here and we can actually, specifically go to air terminals and shut off all of our air terminals. We can come into, and shut off, this specific one. But in terms of, when you said like Navisworks, I think about changing the transparency to 22%, or filtering a specific object in with, or searching for a specific object with search sets. We don't have that ability yet, but search set is something that is coming to Revizto in the very near future. So it's something that's still in R&D, but something I think you'll see in the next 6 months. Additionally, if we're talking about isolating by the file level, so in this example, NWCs or RVT files coming in this case, we export it from Revit. So you can see our main central file right here, as well as the linked files that are also pushed into here. And we can obviously shut these specific links off as well. So that's obviously a capability of Revizto, but to the extent of which Navisworks does it, the answer would be no.
One more question left from Craig. Can you move issue to stamps? I'm not entirely sure I understand the question 100%.
I think I do. So if you have existing issues, can you transfer that data to a stamp? So for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, on this, but if you had 1,500 issues in your in Revizto currently, can you push that or say, you know what, I want these all to be X amount, this to be this stamp and this to be that stamp? Yep, sounds like that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
The answer is no. The answer is no to that. So with any of the issues that we have currently, and if I go all the way back down here, you'll see a lot of the older issues that we have in here. For example, here's an old issue. I would literally need just to come in here and recreate that same stamp, unfortunately. But moving forward, any issue that you obviously create with there, you can edit or be able to manipulate that. However, I will add into, if you did create specific categories or specific stamps, you can adjust those to other stamps. So for example, if all of my door repairs, or maybe I want to take this parameter and change these all to a specific parameter within, maybe edit that stamp, we could come in there and I could address that within Revizto in that sense. But there's no way to take current issues and say, hey, we want these to be all door repair stamps. Is there a history set for stamps? Yes, there is. There's just like, so let me jump back in. Just to clarify with stamps are going to be basically the same thing as a standard issue. So as you can see, here's a stamp that was created in 2D because it has that pane. And then you can also see here's one that was created in 3D because of this cube. So it still has the same history. And as we type or as we do things or as I maybe add a specific tag to this, everything is created in that history in that time level. So we can always see those specific stamps. And as I jump in here and maybe I want to come to one of these stamps up here, you're going to see it's going to gray out these other ones, highlight the one that I'm on, and it's going to show us all the notes or history of that specific stamp.
Cool.
So it looks like somebody was asking, can you filter them with priority for your own issues? Yes. So you can stack any of these current filters and actually create a preset. So maybe you want it, maybe you only want to see by a priority level, and you only want to see issues that are in critical condition. So this is going to show you all of your 11 critical issues. And then maybe you want to say, oh, I only want to see ones that are assigned to Luke Johnson. Looks like Luke handles all of his critical issues right away. So hats off to Luke, but I know I probably don't, and I'm correct here. So here we go. So we got 8 issues assigned to Mark Ciszewski that are in critical that I have not addressed. I'm sure some of these are fairly old as well. So here's one from August 23rd that we still haven't addressed that was in critical. So absolutely is the answer to that. And there's just a number of different ways we can do that. And what I would recommend if you are looking for this, instead of coming into custom filters and then selecting the specific parameters, if you're going to be utilizing this all the time, just go ahead in there and just name a preset. And you can choose to make that preset shared with the whole project or just local to your specific use case. So in my example here, I might just call this, Mark's critical issues and keep that as a private filter because I know nobody else is really going to be care too much about my specific critical issues that I'm working on. So I think we've addressed most of the questions, Vlad. If there's anybody else that has any questions, happy to stay on here for 30 more seconds. But if you guys do think of anything else after this webinar, feel free to email Vlad or Luke directly. If you don't have their email, feel free to just email directly to Revizto off of our website, and they'll connect you with Vlad or Luke, and be more than happy to talk about some of the stuff in more detail for your next project. But we want to thank you guys again for joining us today. And again, this is recorded and this will be on our website if you guys would like to share this with anybody else in your team. So again, thanks again for taking some time out of your day to join us. And I think our next webinar will probably be in about a month that is specific to our ANZ market. But every week we'll have one somewhere around the world. So again, thanks guys, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everyone.